Awesome. So welcome. How was your lunch? Did everybody have a good lunch?
Great.
Hey, I had an incredible group and hopefully you all did too. I have another quick video and I'm wondering why it's not showing me. Here we go. I want to see all the participants. Okay, great. We've got the DJ hat on. Alexa, we're all here. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to play a quick video going with our theme of community and the lessons of the geese. So just one moment. Let me get this queued up here. And play.
She was non-stop crying when we first brought her home. She was only 2 weeks old and was rescued from a goose farm, so she had no family. We weren't really sure if her and our bull terrier Nino would get along. But after just 5 minutes, she started to follow him everywhere. Nino immediately took on the role of a big brother. He was watching Rilette's every single step, making sure she was safe. When we would put Rilette away in her home, she would make these cute little noises, almost like she was talking to him. And Nino would sit on the other side, watch her and wag his tail. It was so sweet. Nino has always been a loving dog, but I have never seen him be so delicate and so gentle with anybody. It was clear he understood how precious she was. They were always next to each other. Fast forward a couple of months later, they still do everything together. Our days usually begin with Nino waking us all up so we can take him outside to go see Rilette. As soon as we open her little house door, Nino goes crazy and starts running around the garden, chasing Rilette and trying to get her to chase him. This goes on for a solid couple of hours until Nino is completely exhausted. Then Nino loves to take his naps, but Rilette is never done playing. Her favorite thing to do now is to walk all over Nino, again and again, teasing him like, "You can't catch me." And she always does this honk sound at the end, almost like she's laughing at him. It cracks us up every time. Another thing Rilette loves doing is to pinch kiss Nino, and he absolutely loves it. They can sit there for hours doing that. We have never thought that they would become such close friends. With Nino, Rilette learns how to navigate the world every day. She might be the boss at home, but Nino is still her big brother, and she always looks up to him. And with Rilette, Nino learned how to be courageous and more adventurous. He has always been a timid dog before, but with his new role as a big brother, he really came out of his shell. I'm so proud of both of them and so thankful for their friendship. Watching them two just brings us so much joy and happiness.
Okay, so talk about the odd couple. It definitely is, beautiful how we can come together from all different walks of life. And one of the things that we stand for is really conflict is a gift. There's not something to run from. We simply need to learn how to navigate it from a place of love. A commitment to resolve is the path to move on easily, save time and money, and create deeper relationships. When we get through it together, we are stronger on the other side and enjoy a peaceful vision, peaceful shared vision in the end. So yay, hopefully you guys are enjoying our piece. Now we're on to the rock stars, but I need to get control of my slide here again. So any ahas or things before we're getting our media panel queued up? You guys ready to hear from these amazing women?
Amen.
Amen. Perfect. Okay, so let me get this ready. We have a few questions that have come in already. This is a chance to hear from these powerhouses that have lots of experience in media. Many of them are media outlets themselves. We have Tracy Hazzard, the co-founder of Podetize. She is a master at monetizing your podcast. She also has been a writer for Tracy. Can you chime in here?
I've been a writer for Inc. magazine. Wrote a column on innovation for 4 years. I write for Authority magazine, and I've written for numbers of other publications. So
I forgot I had you in the slide.
There you go.
Sorry, Tracy. This is Tracy. Can we give her a round of applause? We're so grateful you're here. We love you. All right, now we're going to go to Alexa. Alexa, do you mind doing a quick introduction?
Hi, I'm Alexa. Just like many Alexas some of you have in your houses. Want something done, you say, hey, Alexa, and I get it done. My background is in branding. I've had the honors of working with lots of huge companies like HBO, Sony, AXN, Burger King, City of Sunny Isles, and many, many, many brands, from the big ones to the small ones. And I love them all, taking on new projects and seeing how I can bring value to people's businesses and their lives. So that's me.
Wonderful. And you are incredible with video and social media and, oh my gosh, so much more. All right, let's give a warm welcome to the birthday girl. Yay! Toni, if you'll do a quick introduction. Is the birthday girl here? Oh, there she is. You're muted.
Sorry, I'm muted. I was having such a wonderful time in our meeting with the team before, and my internet dropped out, and yep, sorry. Hi, I'm Toni Lontis. I'm a TV, radio, podcast host. I'm also a writer, and I have a background in nursing, and there's an interesting story around how I became a broadcaster. So I think of myself as a broadcaster in non-traditional media. So that's outside of what you would normally think TV and radio are. I work in that world.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, it's so much easier to push a button than to try to get you guys to clap. You know, the live events, I'm like, come on, guys, let's get some enthusiasm. And so it's kind of maybe a forced enthusiasm.
It still works.
Exactly. So let me go ahead and turn this off. And now we are going to, let me pin each one of you here. So the first question is, and I would like to start with, I'm going to go ahead and start with Toni. Toni, and each of you are going to be able to answer the question, but what would you say is a good pitch and what would you say is a bad pitch? So if somebody is going to share with you their story, can you share some of the things that make it look good to you and some of the things that may not?
I like pitches that have human connection elements. So I'm really passionate about women in business, and women recovering from trauma, whatever that trauma looks like, and that tragedy to triumph story that may or may not have been turned into a business. So that's what'll interest me the most, because that's what my audience aligns most with.
Beautiful. And what would you say would be a bad pitch? What do we need to stay away from?
Okay, so for me, a bad pitch is that pushy sales. It's all about the product, service, whatever. That really does not excite me. And it might be perfectly awesome product, service, or whatever, but I don't like that. I like human connection, relationship building, so it turns me off if it's straight into like a business transaction. If it's transactional, no. If it's a relationship based, yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. Alexa, do you mind sharing your experience with a good pitch and a not so good pitch?
I couldn't agree more with Toni. The human connection and the way she broke it down was absolutely awesome. I agree with you 1,000%. One of the things in pitching is you got to know who your audience is. So your pitches can't be robotic. They can't be identical all the time, the same pitch to everybody. And I got to stick to my guns the same way because people are different. So your pitches need to have something that's going to attract that audience that you have in front of you and bring value to them. What kind of value are you bringing? That's my number one thing. Know your audience and know what kind of value you're going to bring this person. And, a horrible pitch for me, someone that's just bragging away all their successes and they're not even looking at your reaction, and they're just going on and you feel like they can't even catch their own breath because they're just spewing out all their accomplishments. And, you're just making someone else feel insignificant at that point. And it's about the human connection, like Toni was saying for me. So I agree with you, Toni. Thank you.
Tracy, and I know you get a lot of pitches for podcasts and articles. What is share your insight on this?
So I tell this story from stage a lot. I call it's the story of a fan company that pitched me writing an article about Inc. magazine. And so we get a lot of pitches, even from professionals, right? Professional media consultants, other things like that, publicists get a lot of pitches. But this one was brilliant. So the company is called Big Ass Fans, and they're out of Georgia. And I had been writing articles in Inc. magazine for about a year at the moment that she sent me this pitch. And she was the assistant to the president of the company. And she sends me this pitch and said, hey, you've been writing about this branding advice. And my boss has fired 5 branding companies in 5 years because they all want him to change the name of our company from Big Ass Fans to this. I think this would be of interest to your audience. And she didn't tell me why. She left me hanging. She had done research. She was specifically mentioning an article that I had written that was relevant. She didn't say you need to interview my boss. She just said my boss has a story. And I rewarded her with an article. And so you can go to Inc. magazine, type in Big Ass Fans, and you'll get the story, which was fascinating, which was the idea that they really were called HLVC, which is like totally technical, stupid thing. And he would answer the phone and everyone would answer the phone and they would go, HLVC fans. And a company would go, are you the company with those big ass fans? And they would say, yes. And so as a joke, he actually changed the name and then it stuck and they actually changed it officially. But his audience, it was perfect for that name. And that was what caught my eye. And it was the perfect article to write. I enjoyed every minute of the interview. And that was ideal. Today, I get thousands a year of automated responders from Fiverr VAs, from Fiverr assistants. It's a plug and play template. You can clearly see it. Or it's, hey, I'm great. It is not all about you. It is about my readers. It is about my audience of listeners. It's about me. What's in it for me as the media? And that's what you have to do first. And if you don't do your research, if you don't understand that, you'll never succeed with getting that pitch through. Because what you guys were doing earlier, that exercise today where you had the title, I won't go past the subject line or the title to read your press release if that didn't intrigue me. If that didn't tell me a story that I was like something that I want to know and my audience would want to know, I'm not even going to check out your press release. I don't have time for it. So that's where the criticality lies. That can't be about you. That has to be about that story.
I love what you just said, Tracy. And this is a strategy that I've used, is where you find that article, you find some that they've written, you make that personal connection with them so that they, it helps them connect the dots. So that's really powerful. Thank you, Tracy. I love Big Ass Fans. Now I want to go check them out. What material do I need to present a host, and what do I need to do when I get, hold on. What material should you present a host before getting on? So I know some of you have shows, video. What would you suggest? Tracy, can I start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, while it's great that you have a one sheet and you have all of those things, the first thing I want to know is what's in it for me to have you on the show. So, if you're going to tell me that you have, 1,000 followers who are podcasters, right? Because all my stories are about, helping podcasters be better podcasters. But if you have 1,000 podcasters in your community already, you've caught my eye, right? You've already got that. So what's in it for me? What's the biggest benefit? And so if you are, the eco-vegan gal on YouTube, and I want to reach an eco-vegan audience, tell me that up front. That's the first thing that I want to know is when you share this article, is it going to do something for my readership? Is it going to grow my readership? Or if you're on my podcast, is it going to grow my listenership? Because that's what our job is as the media, is to get more listeners, get more readers, right? That's our job there. That's our sole job. And it's hard because it's not about writing it. It's about promoting it. And so if you're going to help me with the promotion side, put that right up front. And then you can attach the rest of the information for me. So when we do one sheets with our clients, one of the key factors we put in is a big call out box that talks about your reach, who that audience is and how big it is or how active it is. So if it's not big, I want to see engagement and activity.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tracy. That's a good one. Alexa, how about you? What material do you see that you like to see when being presented?
Well, that's easy peasy for me, right? I am the video girl, right? So video is definitely key. And we know that it's something that's nowadays almost essential. Like as much as having a phone number, a website, or an email, you need to have a video to present you, your personality, your services, what you do to audiences. So having a powerful video that is current, what makes me laugh is, you'll send the one sheet and it's this picture and you look like a supermodel or whatever. And then you show up and you're like, oh my God, is this the same person? Just like the realtors, they give the little cards and you're like, is that the same realtor? Oh my God. So keep it current, keep it real,
Yeah. Thank you, Alexa. Yes, we got to update. We've had people come to events and they send me their speaker thing and you can tell it's like 30 years later and you're going, oh my gosh, people are going to recognize you. Toni, how about for you? What material do people need or you're looking for?
We actually make it really easy, Shannon. We have electronic forms and we ask you specifically your name, details, business. We ask for headshots, your social media links, hashtags. We ask specifically for the information up front. Our biggest peeve is if we ask for a headshot, please make sure it's a decent headshot and not just a quick, we want to promote you. That's our job, as Tracy and Alexa have alluded to. It's our job. You got to give us something that makes it, gives us scope to do that job well for you. So our guests on my 2 regular shows, they get promotion across all of our social, our newsletters, the website, everywhere. So you want to make sure that photo that you're sending me, that logo of your business is good quality. Doesn't have to be perfect quality. It just needs to be good enough for us to develop the social media that goes with the promotion of me interviewing you on the show. And that is my only peeve. Most people are really good, and your social media handles and the way you send those, find out how you do that, because it makes a difference from our end, if that makes sense.
Carol's asking what pixel count for the pictures, and I'm not remembering that off the top of my head. Tracy,
me neither, Shannon. No, I can't remember off the top.
I think in one of the other.
I would suggest you have at least 300 DPI.
Yeah.
And for whatever size it is. But it's usually good to go for the slightly bigger size. So if you've got one that's like 100 by 100, 300 by 300, you want to go like 600 by 600 minimum for a photo. Even if we shrink it down and use it elsewhere, that's going to give us the best. So 600 by 600, 300 DPI minimum, and then go from there.
Yep. Agreed.
Wonderful. Okay. So how do you decide if somebody's going to be on your show? or a guest or somebody that you're going to work with. Toni, do you want to go first?
Oh, okay. So this never used to be a problem because I used to be always looking for guests, but now we get lots. So I'll actually look at the information as it comes in, and I'll check that they're the right fit for either the business show or the artist and author show. So authors, it's easy. If you've got a book, well, you're appropriate for the program. Occasionally there'll be people that I'll go back and say, look, I'm really not sure that you're a right fit for this show or that show, and just gently let them know. But I've got other people that I can send them to so that they don't completely miss out.
Beautiful. How about for you, Tracy?
So for me, I'm really picky. So I have the media and PR tips say you all are good. I think you already have them shared to the group, Shannon, in the gift bag. But it's I'm going to Google you. I'm not going to take the links you gave me. I'm going to Google you and see what happens, because I want to make sure that it's not a sales pitch to me, that you're really out there, that other people are talking about you. So, I mean, that's the whole point of you doing this publicity, is so that then other people are talking about you, because it gives you authority and credibility. But I'm going to check your authority, because I can't write about somebody in Inc. magazine unless they rise to a level that Inc. magazine thinks is good enough, right? So that's where I sort of developed my criteria all along. So when I Google you, I want to see you on the first page of Google. I want to not just see your own website. I want to see other mentions of you somewhere. I want to see multiple topics and not just like your website. So I'm going to type your name in there and maybe your company name, and if I have to dial it a little deeper. And then I'm going to go to your website and I will check that out, make sure it's not from the 1980s. And, I've seen some that are that bad. I will check it out, make sure it's a decent website, make sure your blog is current, your press page is current, your about page is current. I don't want to see that your bio is outdated. Like, that's critically important. That's why you're here doing a power bio, right? Make sure you keep it updated. I do mine every year. I do a new one. And every year I tell my clients to do a new one, right? To check that out. So that's what I want to see some currency going on there. And then the next thing that I will look at is then check out all your social medias. And I don't really care about the listener base. I'm not looking, or a viewer base, over there. I don't care if you have 1 million Instagram followers. What I want to see is engagement on what you're posting. I want to see people commenting. I want to see people liking and sharing it. That's what I'm looking for over there. And that's it. So I'm just going to go check out, and I'll check out all the social media, because I know that you might be not as strong in Instagram, but you might be really great over on LinkedIn. So I want to check them all out and just see, okay, your strength is over on LinkedIn. That's good. The strength seems to be in this topic area where you're getting a lot of good comments. That's what you pitched to me. That's a match. I think we can do that. But on, just to be a little more specific on some other podcast shows, on some of the things we do, just like Toni was referring to, we have very specific criteria. Like, you can't come on the Binge Factor unless you have a podcast that has more than 25 episodes, that posts every single week currently. That's it. Like, there's a minimum criteria. And if you don't meet that, you're not coming on the show. I don't even review you.
That's great. Thank you, Tracy. Alexa.
Well, I don't have a show per se, right? Not anymore. But when I do look for people that I want to collaborate with or bring them on to a special project or whatever it is, I want to look for people that are not egocentric, and people that can at least.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Been great the whole time.
Thank goodness it's not me. That's all I can say.
We lost you. One of at least people that are, and then you froze.
People that aren't egocentric and they can give me sound bites, because sound bites are everything when you're promoting yourself. So, you cannot edit someone that's going on for a minute or, or 2 minutes on and on and on and on and on and on. It's horrible when you're editing something like that. The other thing I couldn't agree more with Toni and Juliet, with Tracy, because you need social proof. If you're going to bring someone in, which everybody knows that's here and that was here yesterday, is that Bert talks about social proof, and that's the currency for the future. So make sure that you are growing your currency for the future by having those things and being relevant. Some people think that 1970 techniques are okay, and that's not going to be applicable to how we're doing business today. So make sure that you're relevant, that you stay relevant. And also, for me, it's really important. I have an extra personality, as my children would say, right? And so I need to be stimulated differently. So when someone's monotonous in talking and that tone is there and they're kind of not moving, you're not sure what's going on, that drives me insane, because I need it. I need that energy towards me. So make sure that you bring that energy on, because that helps to inspire people and have them remember you and remember what it is that you're doing or saying or trying to change. So that's what I got to say.
Alexa's so right about that because of the media type. In video, it's so essential to have sound bites and energy, or it's just not going to work. So if she doesn't check that out and she has a video show that she wants to put you on, that's not going to work for her. It's a waste of her time. So showing your media types on your website, showing all the different places where, so I can go and listen to you be on a podcast, watch you on a little video clip. If I can see that ahead of time, I know I'm not wasting my time.
So, and some of what I'm hearing you guys say is they need to be ready and make it easy. Like Tracy,
Yeah.
I love that you research. You're at a place where it's like you have to be very picky, but the easier that they make it for you, the more likely they are to take it to the next step.
Absolutely.
Especially in press releases, when you're writing a great press release, the journalists that are trying to pick it up, they don't want to rewrite too much of that story. They just want to make sure that the grammar and stuff is good. You've already written the story for them. You've already made it sensational and eye-catching and eye-popping and all that stuff already. That's how you're going to get them. By just bragging about all your successes, that's not going to, nobody cares. You care. No one else cares.
Beautiful. Can we get a thumbs up or clapping for all of our, isn't this great? You guys loving this? I am too. So Tracy, you've interviewed, and I'm going to save you for last because I just think you've interviewed, what was it, 2,600 podcasters?
That's last year's number. So I think it's well over 3,000. Yeah.
So, and I see this all the time. I shared this story earlier, how I got somebody set up with the local media. The media came in, I'm sitting in there next to them, and they asked a question and the person went on for 20 minutes. And it was just like they talked their way out of the media. And I wish I was closer because I would have kicked or hit or did something. They stopped. But I know that there's some definite do's and don'ts in the media. So let's start with the don'ts on an interview. When you're doing an interview, Alexa, if I can ask you first, what are some of the don'ts that you say that you would suggest?
Drink water first.
Don't drink water first?
Drink water.
Oh, no, we're doing the don'ts. I was like, yeah, I guess you have to pee. You want to be sitting there.
It's horrible when you're interviewing someone and they keep smacking their lips. It's horrible. That's a total don't, right? Or make sure you're not wearing clangy jewelry because the mics pick that up and it's horrible. If you're a woman and you know that they're going to have a lavalier, make sure that you're wearing something that the lavalier can clip onto that's not looking odd placed, when we're going to do that. And be careful with your glasses as well, because as we know, glasses pick up the glares and that's horrible for the camera. So those are some media tips for you guys.
Hey, Alexa, if you drink water first, do you go to the bathroom second?
You hold it like a true pro.
Oh, God.
All right. Toni, how about for you? What are some of the don'ts on an interview?
Don't be blasé about your interview. You might have done 10 million interviews, but when you come and I interview you, I've invested my time and research into you, and I want you to be respect the time that I've invested by interviewing you and researching you, and I want you to be prepared, and I don't want you to be blasé about it. This is, this is an investment of time in each other, and please be prepared, because we take our job seriously, and I'm sure that I speak for Tracy and Alexa. We take what we do seriously. We do our job, we do it well, and as an interviewee, we want you to show up as your best self. I've done interviews where you could just tell that the person that I was interviewing actually didn't want to be there, and I spent the whole interview trying to level up the energy, and that's not okay, guys. It's just not okay. It's about respect for the interviewer, because we respect you as an interviewee, and we've done, like Tracy said, the research.
Tracy.
So don't cancel.
Yes.
Don't cancel. Don't be late. You wanted this.
Yeah.
And I agreed to it. So
yes.
Show up, right? That is, look, real emergencies happen, but you have to understand that you might not get a second shot if you cancel. And so you have to accept that as the reality there, but don't do that. The other part of it is, for me, is like, from a don't standpoint, is don't tell the same story again and again and again on a podcast. This is different than when you're trying to get sound bites across at national media, on a radio station, TV. They have short periods of time, but a podcast is long tail. It's 30 minutes, 20 minutes or longer. And so I don't want to hear the same content that you did somewhere else. So one of the stories I tell all the time is, I was doing a red carpet event, and I was writing for Inc. magazine at the time, and they asked me to interview John Travolta. And I thought, why the heck do you want an online columnist for Inc. magazine writing on innovation to interview John Travolta? And I thought that was weird, but I was on the press list, and they asked me, and they said, you're one of 5 people who's going to get to walk down the red carpet and do a short interview with him. And I said, okay. Why? And they said, well, because you're online media, and he gets a lot of radio, TV, but he doesn't get a lot of print articles. And so we'd really like the digital footprint of that, which makes a lot of sense. I understand that. You want clicks, things that are easy to share. So I prep, because I'm thinking, what am I going to ask them? I prep up. I ask them questions about, like, how do you come back from a failure, and pivoting to pivoting your career, things like that. And he's like giving me these weird answers that are just the odd off the ball, like, oh, I never take risks. And, I think entrepreneurs take too much risk. And I was like, that's not the question I asked. Like, it was just this weird response. And so come to find out that later that I was, so I write an article. Cheryl Snap Connor, who's a friend of mine and a PR person out of Salt Lake City, although I think she's out of Wisconsin right now, writes an article. Hers comes out that morning, and mine's to come out that afternoon, 2 different publications. But I read hers, and her quotes from him are exactly the same as mine. My editor will flip out. So I have to pull my article. Then it happens that day that I go on a radio show of a guy I met who was also on the red carpet interviewing John Travolta. And he plays a clip on his show of John Travolta speaking. And he says the exact same thing to him that he said to me and to Cheryl. So we all now have the exact same content. Well, in writing, that's a terrible thing. Google slaps all of you for having duplicate content. So I have to rewrite my entire article. And even though my headline and everything has John Travolta in it, I basically take his whole quote and everything he said out and instead put in somebody else because I couldn't use it. So that's what we don't want. We don't want to be repetitive in our articles, in our podcasts. We want it to be something original that you've never given anyone else. So do a little research, understand my audience, ask me the question at the beginning of it before we get started recording. Make sure that you're telling a new story. Even if it's the same tip, tell me a different story. Tell me something different.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. This is amazing. So now we're getting into the do's. And so I just want to share one of the things that I love to do that I think is really powerful is before I get on the interview, it's one thing to get to know them, but I also love to ask them, what are you working on right now? Is there anything that you're working on that you can share with me? Because I may be able to connect the dots in what I'm sharing. I love tying back to what they're doing. If I know Tracy can help people with podcasts and she's interviewing, I'll say, oh man, Tracy, the people need to talk to you about this. And so I take that personal time to really get to know them. And if there's a way to support their vision and mission, I've seen podcasts that I've been on and they've shared it for months and months and months afterwards. And I believe it's because I really helped promote them and what they're up to. Your thoughts on that? Any of you ladies have thought that, Tracy, is that a no in what you're doing sometimes, or?
No, not at all. I think it's a really good idea. I mean, the reality is that having something to give back. So having a podcaster asking another podcaster on the show, or a writer asking another writer to swap, social media influencers doing swaps. That's what I call them, right?
Yes.
Doing swaps are more effective. Why?
Yes.
Because I know you got the promotion thing down. I know you already know how to speak, or you wouldn't have your own show. So it's less work, less risk for me. But if our audience or our topics are truly matched, that share of audience is going to be so much easier and so much quicker, right? And so it grows my audience and it grows your audience, and we're good with that. They're 56% more effective for me to interview another podcaster than it is for me to interview someone else outside of that. So getting your own, whether it's your social media influencer, getting your own home base, like dialed in, and starting there with doing swaps rather than just straight trying to pitch interviews is going to actually be more effective in the long run, because you're having a mutual beneficial relationship, and that's an immediate result. From there, you can expand out, but start there. It's easier.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, Tracy, what are the do's? What do you want them to do on the interviews?
What do I want them to do on the interview? I want them to be original, as I mentioned before, right? I want you to be original.
Sorry.
Right. I want you to be engaging. So I want you to be really giving and engaging to my audience. I don't want you to be pitchy, salesy, any of those things. And I definitely don't want you closed off. I want you to share freely. Authors are sometimes the worst to deal with. And Juliet and I have talked about this before. And authors can sometimes say, well, it's in my book, buy my book. But if you instead approach it from they may never read your book, but because you gave them this tip, you shared so freely of it, they might refer that tip to someone else who will buy your book. So think of it as influence that you're growing there, and not book sales.
Beautiful. I love, sorry, Tracy, I'm going to pick on you a little bit, not pick on you, but I love the so many things. I'm a part of your podcast community and how you're constantly sharing with us how to create that binge factor. And I'm thank you so much. Everybody that's attended, you guys are getting the goodie bags, which she's actually given us the boot camp. Can you talk just for a minute about what the gift you've given everybody?
Yeah. So besides the media tips and PR tips that are all in there, and they're focused on these do's and don'ts, like there's a whole list of them in there about different things. Like if you want to pitch articles, like there's another, try to pitch at the end of the month, because article writers who have a minimum number of articles they have to write each month. So if you've got a column, then they run out of ideas by the end of the month and they're getting panicked. So they'll take your press release more exactly at that time. And they'll just like plug and play and get their article done and meet their quota. So like there's timing for things. So that's in there. But the boot camp is how to start a podcast, how to launch a podcast. And I would say the first pieces of it, even if you don't want to learn the whole process, you don't even want to do it yourself, like you want help with it, that's an okay thing. But start here with the first couple of modules, because it's free to you, but it'll help get your strategy in place. And if you get a better strategy for whatever it is you're building, a Instagram channel, a YouTube channel, a podcast, a video show, whatever it is that you're building, if you get a strategy in place for what you're going to do, you're going to be better off. And that's some of the groundwork I think we do best at in our course.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tracy. Oh my gosh, isn't that an amazing gift? Alexa, so what are some of the do's that you suggest with interviews?
Have some questions that are typical that you know that people are going to ask you, and have them ready. like have your homework done, because sometimes some of the hosts will ask you, oh, can you set us a series of questions that you want us to ask? So have those handy already for yourself. Like Tracy was saying, some tips. Yes, always give them those nuggets, 1 or 2 little nuggets that they can stay, that they can take home with them, right? And that they can apply right away. Also, I wanted to mention that crying is okay, just not all the time, because it shows passion. And passion is something that means pass I on, right? You're passing something on to someone, a feeling, an emotion, and that's okay. So tearing up in an interview or something is fantastic as long as it's not fake, right? Another thing that's very important is always make sure you have props. If you're a hairdresser, come in with your hairbrush. If you're a dress person, bring a hanger with you. Whatever it is, make sure you have your book, whatever. Make sure that you bring a prop with you, because people love to see that when you're interviewing. Also, make sure your contact information is current and easily accessible. Not that they call you and your phone number is going somewhere to a voicemail or whatever. Make sure that they can get in touch with you, that your emails are responsive, that your social media DMs are responsive. And also, always remember, thank your host.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you, Alexa. Toni.
I agree with both Alexa and Tracy, and one of my pet peeves is people that book an interview then don't turn up or back out at the last minute. So my stuff is all live. So if you back out on me in a live scenario, I have to do a whole interview ad hoc, which is that's what we do, but it leaves it's not a great feeling, and you're not left with a great feeling about that person. When you have a great interview, however, and the person is prepared and engaged, and they come with their questions, and they've provided questions for you to ask, there's much more engagement from me and the person I'm interviewing, and you're much more likely to promote them to other people. So now that I've met Tracy, then that becomes another part of, oh, have you tried this person, or have you tried that person? And again, going back to Tracy's about the podcast swap, that works so well for people who have shows, podcasts, radio, whatever it is, because not only do you combine your network with their network, but you quadruple rather than double the impact, because you're both coming from the same space. So just please don't cancel, because there's so much work that goes into prepping for an interview, no matter who you are. And I know that there are people out there that don't do what Tracy, Alexa and I do around interviews, but we do. So just respect people's time, respect the effort that they put into promoting you, and unless it's absolutely life-threatening, do not cancel a live interview.
Beautiful. It's interesting. The one thing that I was thinking about as you ladies were talking was also that introduction, that bio. I've shown up at events, I've shown up at things, and I feel like that's been a game changer. I don't like when somebody, it's like if there's key points that I want them to know, then being prepared with that piece. Some of the input that I am being coached on was, because I usually do give questions, but that at least I'm going to do on my podcast when I launch with Tracy. Thank you, Tracy, so much for your wisdom. Was she said that a lot of times when people give you questions, that gets you in that repeat place with every single that maybe this, and it's true, because in my media kit, if you want to book me, we have a list of questions, and they're the same thing that we send to everybody. And I never thought of how that impacts until, Tracy, you made me aware of, like, oh my gosh, it's the exact same thing on all these podcasts, and I need to change it. I need to shift it a little bit. And so on mine, I'm not going to do a bunch of questions. I mean, I'm probably going to ask one question that I ask everybody, but still, yeah. Anything around that you guys wanted to add? And then we have lots of questions, so I'm going to ask some of the questions from the audience.
No, I'm good. That was good.
That's good.
Wonderful. People are asking about the gift bag. You're getting the gift bag at the end. There was like $2,500 worth of goodies, and we didn't want to have your head come in here overwhelmed. So we had a great question from Eileen. She's if you're a podcaster or have a blog talk radio, but it's not a interview format, swapping is not possible. So how can one support the interviewer other than a swap?
Well, you can still support with promotion. So you can still, because you have a podcast audience, they want access to a podcast. Podcast audiences, listeners out there, listen to 7 or more shows. So there's always room to add another show. I'm not going to quit your show and go listen to somebody else's because you suggested it. I'm going to go check out their show and probably add it to my list of many shows that I will check out and keep listening to. So it's a great way for you to do that. So asking them to do some social media shares or doing some of those kinds of things, or take one of their tips and then talk about it on your show and reference an episode of theirs. That's also something you can do.
Beautiful. Alexa or Toni, did you want to contribute on ways to collaborate with some of what you're doing?
I just was going to agree with Tracy about the cross sharing and cross promotion. We do promotion of our guests and each and every week across all of our platforms. And so if you take what we've done and reshare or post it, that helps. It shouldn't be a one-way street. If you share and reshare that stuff, it just gives you bigger, broader access across socials.
Alexa, anything you want to contribute?
No, I'm good on this one.
Okay, perfect. All right. We had the question, somebody asked to talk about the difference between a bio, and I can, but I want them, they're here to see you. They've been seeing me for 2 days. Between a bio that you provide before the event and the introduction that you want them to use at the event. So what do you suggest around that introduction and the difference with a bio? Tracy, would you like to share first?
I think Alexa was just about to say something, so I'll let her
Alexa,
go first.
go. Yes, please.
Know your audience. I'm big on that. You know that, Shannon. Target audience is everything. Knowing exactly who's sitting in front of you so that you share your bio. In my opinion, it doesn't always have to be the same. You can modify it a little bit to make sure that it's appeasing to the people that you have in front of you. Make it, again, the same word again, relevant. Because you want to capture people's attention. You want to see how they can bond with you, how what you're bringing to them. And so it's important that your bio reflects that. And that's why Tracy was saying earlier, update. Absolutely. Update before you go to an event and you hand it off and know who that audience is. So I couldn't agree with her more.
So I just want to piggyback on that real quick. The other thing that you guys do before interviews is we did yesterday with Bert, was you also have an intro reel. And I've noticed that you guys have updated that thing constantly. I mean, there's the key elements, but you guys use that as a great introduction for before when you're speaking.
A lot of people, my degree is in marketing, and I stayed in marketing my entire career, right? And a lot of people don't understand that marketing is like a pie. It's got different areas. It's got the sales area. It's got the advertisement, the development. It's got all those things. And nowadays, obviously, it's got the video that's very important and accessible, because before, back in the day when I started producing videos, 30 years ago, it was very pricey. And nowadays, it's very inexpensive. You can get a great reel to represent you and introduce you at an event, so that what's boring? Just going back to that introduction thing, it's boring when you have the host go up on stage and read your bio. To me, it's a little boring. So that's why I like the video introduction. Shannon's got a video introduction, right, Shannon?
I got one from you too. It's fantastic.
And it's awesome because it helps tell the story really quick, really impactful, with music, with visuals, and all the bells and whistles that you want. They're right there. You don't have to toot your own horn, and no one's going to just read something, that's just monotone.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Toni or Tracy, did you want to contribute anything else for the introduction bio or?
I was just going to say that oftentimes people will send me these really big, long bios, and you've only got a certain amount of time on a show. So myself, I have a short bio and a long bio, and I adjust them for whatever situation they're going to be used in. And that would be my tip for people today is don't be too afraid of adjusting your bio in terms of length and topic depending on the audience that it's going to.
Which is why what we talked about that we develop here, the long one, and in that way
Yes.
you already have the pieces and you can easily extract.
Yeah.
Those are great also when they're short like that.
And
They're
punchy.
great to convert to video.
Right. So I approach this from an introduction is that very often the introductions I'm given are terrible that people provide to me. So in this case, I prefer their longer one. So I'll go out and find their longer one, not the one they use on LinkedIn, which is typically what they'll send me. And they're terrible, right? They're like phrases instead of sentences. And so, I want one that's probably 100 words or less overall. That's what I'm looking for. And an introduction, different. If I'm going to do some research, I want about 300, 400 words so that I can actually do a little bit of like pulling things in it. But when I'm looking at it, I'm looking for three things. The first one, the first sentence I want to see is your direct relevance to my audience. Why am I bringing you here? The reason that's going to be the first sentence that I'm going to open with. The second is why are you uniquely suited to be talking about this today? If it's a topic or what you're bringing to the table, right? Why you? And then that third one is like, what are we going to, what's that sort of credibility that's going to get added to this? That's just like the icing on the cake. It's like some bonus piece of information about you. Those are the three things I'm looking to highlight. And that typically that third thing isn't what you gave me in the bio. I'll usually find it in my research on you. Something like that. So it might be that, you've been the host of this show for 2 years, but you have over 300 episodes and you didn't write that in your bio, but I'm going to highlight that because that's relevant to my audience. Because now I know the advice you're going to give me, it segues right into me saying, and now I can't wait to hear someone who's like a power podcaster, right? So now I've given my own segue into what you've accomplished that we're going to hit on and talk about today.
Wow. You know what, Tracy, this just helps me shine light on how amazing your show is because you're not showing up and winging it. You're making sure it gets done. Your husband taught me a tip. And as I was recording some of my podcast, I loved it. He actually told me to do the introduction after I did the interview.
You do that all the time. That's our number one recommendation on how we teach our clients to podcast.
What a difference, because you're in that energy, you know what you talked about. And I was like, what a great advice. Cause I'm so used to, okay, here's so-and-so. And that was a gold mine. I hope it's okay. I shared one of your.
No, please. I would have shared that if I had thought of it. So I'm glad Tom's still teaching that one. So yeah, the reason is because you're in the energy of the interview. You know what was important. You also know what you talked about. So if something got highlighted about them, now you'll remember to reference it where you might have skipped it in the bio before. And so that's another reason that you might want to do that.
Beautiful. Barbie, you had a question?
Yeah, this is really good information, but I feel a little fragile because I think coming into these spaces, so Dr. Jody and I met on a publicity thing, and I kind of created a little group specifically for people that are, stepping out into this space. And I think a lot of us are very uncomfortable talking about ourselves. I haven't really talked about myself for probably a quarter of a century. I've just kept a lot of things to myself. But then we come into a space like this of where, if you work with certain people or you have certain connections and things like that, you are considered to where, you get invited to the table or you don't based on your credibility and your, authority and all those other kind of things. So I would like to know from the panel kind of what, like I had a beautiful lunch with Alexa. I mean, that was just absolutely amazing. You're a beautiful soul. And it was just such a delight to connect with you. And everybody that I've met on this group so far has been amazing, and you're amazing, Shannon. And, I brought in my dear friend, Karen Wilson and Dr. Jody. And, it's like, these are great spaces, but where is it in the sense of where I don't want to come off and rattle off all my accomplishments and then come off that I'm being egotistical, because that's really not who I am. I'd rather let my work speak for me. But where's the engagement part of where you guys need to have us come forward in that sense? Because I'll be perfectly honest, there's certain people that will tell me I'm not important enough to interview, or other people that are seeking me out because I have certain connections with, Mind Valley and this, that, whatever. So it's kind of that dance of where it's like, I'm a servant leader. I want to be all about heart-centered conscious entrepreneurship. That's really important to me, but it's still in this kind of an arena. It's like, where is it appropriate? Like in a space like this, us telling about what we do, and even Shannon, you coached us, brag about your accomplishments, bring that out, etc. But for a lot of us, it's difficult. So where's the delicate balance? Because I always want to be in alignment of that too, where this isn't about ego. It's about how you bring your message. Because my message is the kindness revolution. Like, I want the whole world to smile and hold hands. I know that's very hippie, but that's what I would like if the world could, I'd like to buy the world a Coke. If you remember those commercials from back in the day.
Favorite commercial.
Shannon, could I take this one?
Yes, please.
So Barbie, the thing is that it's a match to where you're going. So in the media, like the print media, the broadcast media, what you think of as typically TV and radio, authority matters more. They care about who you are, what your pedigree is, all of that, because that's what you need to be up there along with others. In podcasting, it's about the story. It's about the connection. It's about serving the audience. You might be a better fit there. And so be thinking about the media type that you're going into may be a better fit for that servant leadership model. That is actually truly the podcasting model. Most of my hosts, most of the people that I know and have interviewed on, and I've been on hundreds of shows myself as a guest, I can say that while I hand them a bio that has some details about me, the reality is that there's not one thing that I talk about on the show that is really bragging about me. Like, they'll ask me something about it. It's like, well, how did you do 2,600 interviews or 3,000 interviews? And I'll be like, well, because I have 8 shows. Like, and I'll tell a story about that, but I'm not really talking about my accomplishment of that. I'm talking about what I learned from that, the tip that I'm giving. I'm bringing my advice out into the world that way, through stories, through references that do reference my experience, but I'm not there going, hey, I did this, I did that, right? That's not the point of it. The point is for the audience to take that takeaway. Does there need to be some transfer of authority? Absolutely. But in the case of podcasting, the host is the authority. The audience chose to listen to their show. They subscribed. That's a big difference right there, right? So they're the authority. Everyone's there because of them. So they only need just enough of your background and credibility to say why they brought you on the show today. And it could be because you're such an amazing giver. It could be that. So leading with what you're going to bring the audience when you pitch them, that's all that's going to matter. The rest of it is going to be like icing on the cake.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Good.
Barbie, I would love to interview you, number one, because one of my things that I say all the time to my team is just be kind. Doesn't matter if they're being an asshole to you, just be kind. You have a choice. Pardon the Aussie. It's so important. Kindness gets us through all sorts of situations, and I think that it's the key to moving forward as humanity. The other thing I was going to say that adds to what Tracy has said, that there is a whole realm of media out there that is outside what you normally think of as traditional media. So when I talk traditional media, that's TV, that's linear TV, that's radio. There's a whole world out there of non-traditional media where you can get you can get interviewed, you can get noticed, and you can get interviewed by podcasters, non-traditional TV interviewers and hosts. There's a whole range out there. There's a whole world out there. Don't think that one is better or not for others, because the future would suggest that as humanity we will start to choose what we want to listen to and what we want to watch, and it won't be traditional media. It will be podcasters, video producers, YouTubers, OTT TV networks. That's where it's going. Yeah.
And don't forget bloggers.
Yes.
They're still powerful. Bloggers are
They are.
extremely powerful today.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I receive and I accept, and thank you very much for the opportunity. And this has been a breakthrough, because I think it really is a fine balance, and it's that kind of trying to figure out exactly how it is, because I love the idea about manifesting, where you magnetize and you pull things to you as opposed to pushing it out. Because I just always felt like I had to push with my drive. And the last few years, I was telling Alexa, just opening up to receiving and being in surrender, all these beautiful things just happen to find, their ways to you. So thank you for that.
That's because you shine, Barbie.
Oh,
We can't even see you and you're shining.
thank you.
Okay, we got time for one more question. Regina.
Thank you. That was so helpful, ladies. I was just curious your input. I know some of the shows at the end, they have like the lightning round where they just ask random questions. I think it's fun, but I'm just curious your thoughts as thought leaders and, experts in this space. What do you think?
I think it has a purpose, right? There's a real purpose to it, and it's necessary from a promotion standpoint. So when I do any kind of lightning round, and mines are very short, or like I always ask the same 3 questions of everyone there. I don't like to do it because it tends to be repetitive content. But my purpose for doing it is how I use it out on social media. It's going to make a clearer, easier way for my team to pull out a soundbite, because it forces you to be concise, to pull out that soundbite for a video meme that's going to be on TikTok, or a Instagram quote that's going to go in my stories. So that's its purpose typically, is to do something like that. And so participating in them or having that feature, have a strategy for how you're going to use it. Don't just do it because that seems like something you would be fun at the end of your show, but do it because you're going to use it for something. And that makes it clear cut, easy to do. And then thinking about using it again in a compilation. So every year on our anniversary, or every time we reach a milestone, like 100 episodes, we'll do a compilation of those top clips, of the top pieces of advice. And so we also create infographics from them. And so it gets us a lot of evergreen use over time that's reinforcing the basic message of our show, or the basic advice that everyone should be giving. And that's how we do it. So I think when it's used in that way, it's really great. But here's the thing: tell your guests, if you're structuring your show, tell your guests you're going to do it. Because being surprised by that can be really off-putting, and you get weird answers and uncomfortableness. And that's why you don't do it at the beginning, do it at the end, because you built rapport, right? You don't want that weirdness to start your show. But when you do it, just tell them that to be prepared for it. And so so I double check with them when I get on the call and we're about to do our interview. I'll say, hey, have you listened to this show before? And it's okay if you haven't. So I just don't want them to lie to me, because I want to make sure that I'm going to tell them. I was like, we do the 3 things each time. I'm going to ask you this. And so even if they say yes, I still repeat it just to make sure that they really had, sometimes they skim it and they don't realize that it's or they only listen to 1 episode. So they don't know it's a repetitive feature. And so we're going to cover these 3 things. I actually never put it at the end. I put it in different places. That's my process for it. And here's what I'm going to ask you. Just be prepared for that. Is there any problem with me asking you those things? So, So anyway, that's kind of my advice on that part.
Nice. And I think even with a podcast too, same thing, right? Like, have a strategy, otherwise don't do one.
Yeah. So, have a strategy for how you're going to use it. Have a strategy for what it's doing for your business, what it's doing for you from a standpoint, but having a strategy, because basically no one's going to make money off their podcast from advertisers. It's going to be way too much work for you. So have a strategy for how it's being utilized to build you authority, to bring you publicity, to build relationships, there's to serve the community, to, keep in touch with your audience. There's all different ways you can alternatively monetize.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Closing remarks as we finish up. Toni, any closing remarks on media? or how do they pitch to you? If you're taking stories, is there a way that you want to receive and get that information?
We actually have links that take you directly to the information we need. I like to make things simple. So you just simply reach out to me on any of socials, email info@ToniLontis. I've put my calendar link into the chat. It might have gone up a little bit further than anticipated, but there's also, you can, at the moment, I can say that, I usually have space in my calendar to just chat to people about things. So I'm happy for people to do that, and I'll put the link back in a moment. Think outside the square. I find that for people, when I say I have a TV show, they immediately think of traditional media. I'd encourage people to think outside the square. There's video, there's podcasting, there's blogs, there's a whole range of things where you can get the message of you, your business, your product, your service, your message out to the world. So think outside the square.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Alexa, are you still with us? Keep going on and off. I have the... Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right, cool. Sorry about that. We are under construction over here, and the AT&T guys, I guess they like to hit the lines for some reason. So it was in and out. But you know what? When it comes to doing interviews or getting on interviews, producing interviews, just make sure that you keep it fun. Keep the fun in it. Don't make it painful. We're talking about going to interviews and making it painful sometimes, and showing up late, making your host feel uncomfortable, or you feeling uncomfortable with your host. Just make sure that you keep it fun, because it is something that's beautiful. It's something to progress. It's something to help you grow in your life, or mostly in your business, right? That's why we're doing it. And also wanted to let you guys know, just in case, that we right now are in the process. You can't see it, but right back here, there is a podcast room for rent. So for those of you that want to start your own shows, the studio that we're opening up in Miami is having podcast room, photography, videography rooms, bays, everything. And I don't know if you could see it, but I know it was kind of weird to have a shower in the room that I'm in, but it's actually a dressing room that we have for people to come and get ready before they go on camera. So it's all fun. I think it's so much fun. I got to put on my makeup in the dressing room today, and I absolutely loved it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Alexa. And Alexa, how would somebody get a hold of you?
Very easy. You can find me on any social media, Alexa at BOWAstudios, BOWAstudios.com. And you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, Alexa Oliva, Twitter, all the good stuff. You can find me at Alexa Oliva.
Beautiful. You're so much fun to follow too. I love your family adventures. And oh my gosh, if you can look up the Oliva's Adams family video on YouTube.
Oh, that's my favorite one.
It is so hilarious. They talk about creative juices and ways of getting out there. I mean, oh my gosh, you guys have some great stuff you've done. Tracy, any final remarks, and how would somebody contact you if?
So reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am on it every single day. So that is the one social media platform, although I'm on all of them, is the one I personally check. Otherwise, it's manned by my team. And the same thing with my email. My email box is super, super full. So I'm not going to give that to you because it'll take a long time for it to get to me. So the best way is just reach out on LinkedIn. I'll check it. I'll try to refer you on, get you to the right person, and make sure that happens for you. It's the easiest way. And, here's a tip. Follow your favorite media. Follow them. Follow Alexa. Follow Toni. Follow me, right? Watch our posts. Comment on them. Engage with us, and we're more likely to engage back with you. So do that in advance of pitching, because then your name will already be familiar. So when you message me at that point, I'll be like, oh, I've been seeing that person on my LinkedIn comments all the time. I should connect with them. I should see what they're all about when that email hits my inbox. You're not a stranger in that.
Yay! Oh my goodness, this was awesome. Thank you, ladies, for giving us your time. Toni, thank you for being here on your birthday. Alexa, I mean, each one of you talk about the commitment to just serve humanity and be here. So we were talking, Tracy, about when people cancel, and it's like, oh my goodness. And Alexa, there's been times where I know you're getting on stage at our events and you've had a major phone call. Nobody knows. You just get on there and you let your light shine. And, you know, this is one of the things in media is like, sometimes
Gotta be on.
Gotta be on.
Doesn't matter what's happening, right?
Yeah. So I appreciate you ladies so much. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Then please be back right away. We're going to get to hear from Juliet Clark, who is why we're all here. So we got to make sure that we get a chance to hear from her. She's going to be talking about platforms, and we really, this is going to be instrumental in us growing our fan base and what's next. So with that, we will see you back here in 5 minutes.
Happy birthday, Toni.
Happy birthday, Toni. We love you.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Tracy. You're awesome, girl.
Thank you so much. I can't imagine spending my birthday with anyone else.
Oh, well, we're so glad you're here.
Thank you, Shannon. I am going to go and have to get coffee though, because it's now 4:24 a.m. in Australia. So I need coffee.
Oh my God.
Wow. Think about that, you guys. She put makeup on at 4 o'clock in the morning for us.
Commitment, Toni.
Yes. All right. See you guys in just a minute.